Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. My name is Joni Davis. I am the Rural Health Farm Worker Protection Safety Specialist out of the Pennsylvania Office of Rural Health at Penn State University. And my program is funded by the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture's Bureau of Plant Industry. I'm here today to talk to you about the EPA's Worker Protection Standard and how it may apply to your operation. So the principles of this regulation are to inform, protect, and mitigate. And as we go through this presentation, we're going to talk about how each of these things is addressed in this regulation. So originally, this regulation was issued by the United States Environmental Protection Agency in 1992 and was most recently revised in 2015. This regulation is primarily intended to reduce the risk of illness or injury to workers and handlers resulting from occupational exposure to pesticides used in the production of agricultural plants on agricultural establishments, such as farms, forests, nurseries, closed-space production facilities like greenhouses, hoop houses, grow houses, and high tunnels. So a worker is defined as any person who works in a crop area performing hand tasks such as harvesting, deadheading, pruning, planting, etc. But this person does not apply pesticides. A handler is someone who applies the pesticides or works on the application equipment or is present during pesticide application. These people usually come in direct contact with the pesticides themselves, either diluted or in concentrate. So a lot of times when I meet someone and they think we don't fall under the WPS, I ask them a couple of questions. And the first one is, do you grow a production agricultural crop? Then I ask, do you use pesticides on this crop? And do these pesticides have an agricultural use requirement statement on them? And then the next question is, do you have employees working in crop areas where it has been less than 30 days since your last restricted entry interval expired? If you answered yes to these questions, then your operation falls under the Worker Protection Standard. So I also asked, do you have employees outside of your immediate family? According to the EPA, the following people are considered immediate family members: children, stepchildren, foster children, parents, step-parents, foster parents, your spouse, your in-laws, your uncles, aunts, nephews, nieces, grandchildren, grandparents, and first cousins. And if you are a family-only operation, you still must comply with the Worker Protection Standard if you're growing an agricultural crop using pesticides, and those pesticides have an agricultural use requirement statement on them. If you're a family-only operation, you must follow all the pesticide label requirements because the label is the law. This includes personal protective equipment, abiding by restricted entry intervals, and the application exclusion zone for outside operations. If you fall under if you have immediate family members, you must do the following. You must train them every 12 months on pesticide safety. If you have employees outside the immediate family, you must train them every 12 months on pesticide safety using the EPA approved materials. You must have documentation that your employees received the training. Employees must receive pesticide safety training on day one if it has been less than 30 days since your last restricted entry interval expired. The pesticide safety training is usually in a video format. Penn State has created videos, and these DVDs on the right-hand side of the screen are examples of some of the videos that we've created. But in the last several years, we've realized that many computers no longer have DVD drives, so we've converted to flash drives. So all workers must watch the worker video. Handlers must watch the worker and the handler video. It must be repeated annually before anyone works in crop areas that have been treated. It must be offered in a language that your employees can understand. All of our videos are created in English as well as Spanish. There are alternative format trainings for other languages if needed, but these are the two videos that we have. And then a Pennsylvania certified applicator must be present during training. In Pennsylvania, the Department of Agriculture does not recognize train the trainer for worker protection standard training. The reasoning is that that training is a one and done training, and nobody ever has to get updates or learn any more about the worker protection standard once they've completed that training. And there are things that change from time to time. And so as a certified applicator, when you go to meetings and you get your continuing ed credits, you're usually hearing something about worker protection standard talks at some point in time. And so you're getting updated material. So a Pennsylvania certified applicator must be present during the training. If you are not a certified applicator, or you don't have a certified applicator on your staff, you can ask a neighbor or a friend to be present for your training, or you can contact me and I can supervise your training because I am a certified applicator. If an employee requests a copy of the sign-up sheet, the employer must provide one to them. And vice versa, if someone comes to you and says that I've already received my worker protection standard training for this year, and they provide you with the sign-up sheet, you can accept that. Just make sure that the date does not expire during the time that you have them employed. We also have the alternative format employee training and print for workers who are training for worker training for growers who do not use technology, or for employees who do not wish to watch the videos. We have flip charts, and then we also have the booklets that are bilingual. So if anybody needs those, you can reach out to me and I can provide those for you. One of the areas that is the first place that an inspector often will look is the central location. This location is meant for employees to be able to find any and all information about pesticide application on the establishment. And so at the central location, you must have a safety information poster with the name and address of the nearest medical facility that can treat pesticide poisonings, the regional Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture contact information. You must also have safety data sheets for all the pesticides applied to crops on the farm or establishment, whether they're applied by you or a commercial applicator. And then you must have your pesticide application records for all restricted use and general use pesticides used on the crops. This is what the pesticide safety information poster looks like. We provide this poster free of charge to growers to be in compliance with the regulation. You can see down on the bottom that there's a spot for the nearest emergency medical facility, and then for the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture. There's also a spot on the bottom where you can put the address of where the poster is located. This is really helpful, especially if you have multiple locations or multiple farms that your employees visit. A lot of times people know how to get to work, but they don't always know how to direct emergency medical personnel in the event of an emergency. So I always recommend that people put the location where the poster is being hung to get medical personnel to you. Safety data sheets. These were standardized in 2012. They used to be called material safety data sheets. Now they're just called safety data sheets. So when they standardized these, they took and made every single one of them, regardless of what product you're looking at, the same exact order. So each section on every product is the same. Section 5 is always firefighting. Section 6 is always spills or whatever. So it made it really helpful. These communicate hazard information in case of an emergency, and they can be obtained from your pesticide dealer or online. The best address that I have found to find them is agrian.com, the top one. Some people have luck with CDMS, but I've just never had any luck with them. So you can also reprint labels from this website. It is a database that's continually being updated. So if you don't find something today, you might check back later and they might have updated it. If you can't find one, you can always reach out to me and I can try to help you find it. A lot of times I have found as I'm looking that if I can't find a current safety data sheet, all I'm finding is the material safety data sheet. It's usually an old product that was being discontinued, that a grower purchased a lot of because they really liked it. And it's just been so long that it's out of date. It's no longer in circulation. and it's time to probably turn it into the ChemSuite program for recycling. If you don't have a safety data sheet, you're not in compliance with the regulation. Pesticides records. There is certain information that is required for the WPS, and then there is other information that is also required for Pennsylvania pesticide law. When it comes to record keeping for the WPS, all records must be kept for 2 years. The information required for the WPS for pesticide records is the name of the pesticide applied, the active ingredient, the EPA registration number, the restricted entry interval, the location or site treated, the date and time the application was started and ended, and then the additional requirements for the Pennsylvania pesticide law, which records must be kept for 3 years, are crop and commodity treated, the application rate, the size of the treated area, the quantity of undiluted pesticide used, and the applicator's name and certification number. Again, for Pennsylvania pesticide law, records must be kept for 3 years. When it comes to WPS, you must keep records for all restricted use and general use pesticides. Personal protective equipment. Employers must provide all label required PPE for handlers, including gloves, goggles, chemical resistant apron, etc. They must ensure that this PPE is being worn correctly, provide a clean place for storing personal clothing and removing PPE, care for, maintain, and replace any damaged or worn PPE, and dispose of contaminated PPE. They also must provide instructions for people who clean the PPE. If pesticides used on the farm require the handler to wear certain things, they must be provided by the employer. This includes providing a respirator, the fit test, and replacing cartridges as needed. The respirator fit test is a 3-step process. First, you have to get a medical evaluation. This is just a series of questions that you answer. The medical provider will evaluate it. If you're relatively healthy, they will give you a release to be able to have the fit test done. If there's any red flags, they will oftentimes recommend that you get a physical, but most of the time it's not required. Second, you have to get the actual fit test. This can either be done at an occupational health facility, or you can purchase a in-home test kit from Gempler's, either using irritant smoke or Betrex or saccharin, and do the test on your farm following the directions that accompany the kit. And third is the actual respirator training. This is probably one of the pieces of this puzzle that is often neglected. Respirator training is important. You need to make sure that you know how to use your respirator in all situations, how to know when to change out your cartridges and everything. Respirator training can either be done by reading the manual that comes with your respirator, or there's a booklet that you can get from PERC that talks about respirator fit and training guidelines. I have some of these booklets, so if you need one, you can always reach out to me, or you can go online. Decontamination supplies. Within a quarter mile of the crop area, the employer must provide workers with 1 gallon of water, soap, and single-use towels. And for handlers, 3 gallons of water, soap, and single-use towels, as well as a change of clothes or a set of coveralls. Tieback will work. And when applying pesticides that require eye protection, the handler must also have a pint of eye wash water immediately available. The regulation says either on their person or on the application equipment. This one is subject to interpretation, and every inspector may have a little bit different interpretation, but the guidelines actually say on person or on the application equipment. In addition, there must be an eye wash station at the mix and load site capable of delivering 0.4 gallons per minute of water for 15 minutes. You can substitute 6-gallon jugs of water as long as those jugs are in a tote or something where they are covered and not being exposed to pesticide residue. Applicator notification. Make sure that you follow the pesticide label for notification of application It will either say oral notification or posted notification or double notification. If you have a greenhouse, hoop house, or other enclosed space production facility on your farm, and you apply pesticides that have a restricted entry interval greater than 4 hours, you must post a danger pesticide keep out sign. And for outdoor operations or fields, if the REI is greater than 48 hours, you must post a danger pesticide keep out sign, similar to the one on the right-hand side. If posting is required, it must be done prior to the application, but not more than 24 hours prior. It must be covered within 3 days after the restricted entry interval expires. Do not use these as no trespassing signs. If your inspector shows up to inspect you and you have these signs posted and there are no active REIs, or it's been more than 3 days since your REI expired, it's a ding on your inspection. So make sure that you're putting it up prior to the application and taking it down within 3 days. Worker entry restrictions after an application. Restrictions are the same for outdoor and indoor closed space production. Employers must not allow employees to enter the treated areas until the restricted entry interval specified on the pesticide label has expired. All treated warning signs have been removed or covered, and the applicable pesticide application information and safety data sheets is displayed at the central location. Oftentimes, people will keep all of the safety data sheets for all of the pesticides that they use on their establishment at the central location for the season. This is perfectly acceptable. I highly recommend that in the off season, whenever that is for you, that you go through your pesticide storage area, that you make sure you have safety data sheets for all of the pesticides that you use on your establishment, and that they are up to date. Make sure that you don't have any old material safety data sheets in there. And your pesticide records can be kept at the central location for the entire season, and then you can file them away after that if you want to. A designated representative. If an employee is uncomfortable asking for pesticide information on their own, they may designate someone to request this information for them. This must be done in writing and contain the following information: the name of the worker or handler being represented, a description of the specific information being requested, including the dates of employment, date or dates for which the records are being requested, the type of work conducted during the period for which the records are being requested, and the specific application and hazard information requested. This designation must be clearly written with all parties' names and contact information to send this information to. The employer must provide this requested information within 15 days. The application exclusion zone for high drift application, such as air blast spraying, aerial spraying, fumigant, smoke, mist, or fog, it's 100 feet. And for lower drift applications, such as boom sprayers, anything sprayed above 12 inches above the planting medium, it's 25 feet. This is basically, think about a bubble around your application equipment, either 100 feet or 25 feet, that moves along with you in the field. If anyone enters that bubble without the proper PPE needed for the particular pesticide that you're applying, you must suspend your application until that person leaves the area, and then you may resume. Some of the common deficiencies that I find when I go out and do farm visits. First is using outdated training materials. There are many different training materials out there. If you are using DVDs that are in the old plastic case, this one, make sure that you get rid of it. That is an outdated material and is no longer accurate. So make sure you get rid of it. If you are using one in this type of case, and as long as it says 2018 on the DVD itself, you are using current materials, And if you have a flash drive, you are using current materials. So make sure that you check out your training materials. Training not being completed, people just not getting it done. Having no respirator fit test or the documentation for it, not doing the respirator training. Sometimes people will do the medical evaluation and the fit test, but just never get around to doing the training. The growers don't know if they have products that require a respirator. It is baffling to me how often I will ask a grower, do you use any products that require a respirator? And they answer, I don't know. You need to make sure that you're reading the labels, that you know what PPE is required, and that you have it on hand and are providing it for yourself as well as your employees. Having MSDS instead of the safety data sheets. Make sure you go through your safety data sheets, and that you are getting rid of any of the old material safety data sheets. You don't have to have a fancy little notebook like this from Gempler's. You can simply use a 3-ring binder, put on its safety data sheet, and have all of your safety data sheets alphabetized. But make sure you go through yours and make sure you pull out all the MSDS and print a new safety data sheet for it. And then having outdated safety posters. There are some older posters out there. Make sure that your poster either says 2017 or 2018 in the bottom left-hand corner. That's how you know that it's accurate. You can buy these from Gempler's, you can buy them from PERC, but there's no reason to purchase them. I will provide them to you at no cost. And then the safety poster not being filled out. Sometimes it'll be hanging up, but they won't have filled in the information, and that's a ding on your inspection, and it's silly deficiency to have. So make sure you're filling it out. If you're not sure what information to put on there, reach out to me, I'll help you. Any questions? We did have a question from the audience when I gave this presentation last time, and they asked if PDA is out inspecting and how often they're inspecting. And the Department of Agriculture is inspecting. They can inspect for a lot of reasons. They can do a cold inspection where they just show up and decide to do a WPS inspection. If there is a complaint, they will certainly do an inspection. And then sometimes it's just a matter of, when they get around to you. So there are a lot of new inspectors. There are always changes happening. So you should always be prepared for an inspection, but more than that, you should be following this regulation to protect yourself and protect your workers from the exposure. As long as you're doing that, you have nothing to worry about. So what I can do for ag producers, I can come out and do on-site assessment for your WPS compliance prior to a regulatory inspection, which is the best way to have it happen. Or after a regulatory action has been taken, sometimes you'll get an inspection and it won't go well, and they'll recommend that you reach out to me. But it's always better for you to reach out to me to come out and sit down with you before this happens. I can provide training assistance for handlers and workers. Like I said, I'm a certified applicator and I can supervise your training if need be. I provide group presentations on WPS compliance for ag producers. So I would love to be able to come out to some of your association meetings and give this presentation in person and be able to answer any questions that growers may have about this regulation and what your responsibilities are. We provide educational programs on WPS for special populations such as the Anabaptist communities and migrant or immigrant farm workers. I try to provide communication on updates to the WPS regulation and important reminders. I provide training materials like the DVDs or the flash drives, the safety posters, and WPS compliance record forms at no cost to you. And I also have information about respirator fit testing and training opportunities. So Penn State's pesticide education program does offer respirator fit testing at no cost at certain meetings throughout the year. The Mid-Atlantic Fruit and Vegetable Convention is one of them. It is completely free to you. All you have to do is register. Oftentimes you can just show up with your respirator, clean shaven, and you can get a respirator fit test. They'll do the medical evaluation, they'll do the fit test. And then we've actually also started incorporating the training component because that's one of the deficiencies that never seems to get done. So you can come back at some point in time during that day and get the training so that you're in complete compliance with the respirator fit testing regulation. So highly recommend that you take advantage of that if you have the opportunity. If you see that there's a respirator fit test event happening, definitely take advantage of it. There's also a place called Keystone Health in Gardner's, Pennsylvania, that offers assistance with respirator fit testing for ag workers. So if you have questions about that, you can reach out to me. This is my contact information. My phone number in my office is forwarded to my cell phone, so I'm almost always available. You can email me at wpsprogram@psu.edu with any questions that you might have, or if you'd like to set up a time for me to come out and speak at one of your association meetings, I can offer a WPS talk for a half an hour for 1 core credit, which a lot of people really like. So if there are any questions about any of this, please feel free to reach out to me. I am happy to answer them to the best of my ability. Thank you very much.